When I told everybody I'm gonna do this, YouTube was 4 months old when I started my show. So like, it wasn't like people, like what you're doing now, people are like, oh, podcasts can hit.
Right.
Like it's known. When I was like, I'm doing this, people thought I lost my mind. Like it can't be overstated.
Yeah.
Like my best friend Brandon and my dad, and my cousin Bobby, the core four of us who were running the liquor store at the time, I was the guy. I was buying the wine, I was selling the wine, I was marketing, I was on the floor, and now I'm taking all this time to record in front of a camera and put it on the internet. That would be like me telling you right now, listen, the three of us have to go to Mars, set up a lemonade stand, and it's gonna work. It was that far-fetched to them. And so, yeah, but for me, my whole life, this may really resonate with you and a lot of the audience. I'm almost like reverse Allen Iverson. Like, I like the practice. I like the crap that no one sees.
It's a great reference.
It's a really important part to me. I enjoy when it's small. Like, I'm doing Twitch right now. Live streaming, are you doing it right now actually, Dustin? A little something, in and out. But like, in my office, I'm sitting in my office doing 10 hours of meetings and Twitch is running in the background, 90% on mute.
Yeah.
And people are watching it, but not a lot. Like, why would you watch that? It's like almost ASMR for entrepreneurs. I unmute a bunch, I do questions, I give away stuff, we hang out. But I watch it, I'm like, okay, hundreds of people are watching now, but I already know in my brain, tens of thousands of people are gonna watch me go about my business day in 6 years. And like, that gets me off more than anything. I love the 100 views, not the millions of views I have on social.
Right.
I'm almost like, it's almost like why I think I love the Jets so much. The chase to finally get it is more interesting to me than getting it. When the Yankees won the World Series, I stopped watching the Yankees.
Yeah.
But like the climb, the behind the scenes.
Yeah, there's multiple layers to everything you just said, because we can go into the Jets thing where it's like, when you finally get to the result, your process has been all the way a part of like, is the fulfillment gonna be there, or are you gonna look back and be like, damn, the process was truly the best part?
I already know the process is the best part.
But you haven't bought it yet.
I know,
but sitting there,
I genuinely
with a green suit on,
yeah,
signing the piece of paper,
yeah,
and you're gonna be like, that process was tight. You're gonna be like,
I believe that is at 48. I believe that I'm very confident telling you that I already know. Like, to the point where like I'm gonna say this may sound weird to a lot of people. I'm curious if I get some DMs or emails about this from people that have experienced this. I'm actually so extreme on process over the thing that I sometimes almost get like this weird, not depression, but like, I don't know, I'm gonna try to articulate it because it's what I do, but like, I'm almost weirdly scared of how not great that moment might be. Almost a letdown, like, I don't know, I'm so into the chase that getting it is like, all right. Like it's actually, I think it's a little fucked up and I'm working on this. I'm trying to be better at smelling the roses and enjoying. My brother, who's 11 years younger than me, has been very wise on this with me my whole life. Like, we would just do these things. When he was 22, we started the company, and like a lot of great things have happened over the last 14 years. And like, he's like, bro, like good things would happen. We sold a piece of our company to Stephen Ross, who owns the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah.
That was like a meaningful event at the time.
University of Michigan guy.
I mean, that's right. Big event, like changed the course. Mainly I was very enthralled to do it because I knew for AJ it would be money that really changed his life at that point, being in his young 20s. Like, it was a real catalyst. Like, it hits the bank account. It looks weird when you've got those kind of dollars in your account and you've had it.
Yeah, looks like a phone number with a name.
And I was like, all right, like I don't know, like I didn't even I don't know, like it's very consistent in my life. I'm obsessed with the chase, and I think a lot of people listening can resonate. Other people enjoy the winning it over and over, and it is about the trophies and the success. I like the process, and by the way, I'd like to be a little bit better about smelling the roses and enjoying these big moments. But I just like the game. I like the practice. I like the grind.
When you say you work on it, how do you work on it?
Meaning, how am I working on trying to enjoy the rose? By talking to myself about it. I think we all do that. Like, I think everyone has an inner dialogue. We all talk to ourselves about shit. Every one of us right now, us in front of the camera, the crew behind the camera, and definitely everybody who's watching, we know some shit right now that we wish we were doing better, or something that's bothering us. And you know this, we all talk ourselves into a tipping point where we do something about it. I try to get better and better at fixing it or making it better happen faster than dragging it out. That's what I'm working on. Things are contextual. So I think a thing that people beat people up about, this is why cancel culture is so flawed. People trying to rewind shit from 29 years ago and yell at people for what is a social norm now, shit changes. So when I was making videos in 2008 and being like, yo, you gotta go hard at 9 p.m. to midnight, at that point, everyone was out of a job. The economy collapsed. And the internet was exploding. I was right. When someone like brings it up now, 15 years later, and be like, oh, people were burning out. I'm like, people didn't even know what the fuck burning out was then. People weren't worried about burnout. People were worried about fucking paying their bills. So I think a lot of what I look back at, what works for me, that I highly talk to a lot of content creators, influencers about is like, never say something you don't believe. The amount of people that say shit that they don't believe in, only with the hope of going viral, is a fucking disaster. No million views is worth looking back at it and being like, you're an idiot. So the reason I don't have a lot of answers to your question is because everything that's ever come out of my mouth, I mean. So I feel good there.
Yeah.
But I think what's interesting is to look back at context. I think the things that I think about is, I think the middle, purple, is the game. I think America's gotten way too red and way too blue. And purple is the magic. So when I look at things back, sometimes I didn't create a hedge or a context point to my overall thought. So I'll give you a great one that's happening now. I'll break it fully down since we have a minute. As you two may know, and as some of the people who are watching who have seen my content, I believe in volume of content. I believe it's crazy for you to do this show with me and not put out 150 clips from the show. But when I say 150, people take it, and I don't do a good enough job to say not 150 on Instagram, 150. For example, I think 12 YouTube Shorts posts from this are important because if you title it properly, YouTube's the second biggest search engine, and somebody might watch a clip from this in 3 years and discover you guys. Because YouTube works differently than TikTok. Then there's TikTok, then there's Facebook. Do you guys post clips on Facebook?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
More. Because it's a supply and demand issue right now. I'm pretty sure you don't post on Pinterest. It's probably unlikely that you post on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, I would argue, is your biggest opportunity for your audience and how you roll. So when I think but I'll say in a clip, I'll look back and be like, post 40 times a day. And people take it as like in their one channel and they're like, that's stupid, or I don't get it, or I can't. Another thing that I've been thinking through, for example, because I've been speaking of volume of content for 7 years, is I take for granted that I've made good content. You're making a good show. It has the potential to have 7 or 12 or 15 pieces of content. I think of things now more, and I've always thought of it this way, but I didn't articulate it, that it is a quality quantity framework. You should post 40 times a day over 7 different platforms if you have quality. Posting for the sake of posting is not gonna do anything for anyone. So I think about those kind of things where in the speed that I talk, because I get hyper and excited, and the fact that sometimes it's limited, you only have limited time, we're trying to get to a lot of stuff. Sometimes I don't finish out all the sentences or all the context. And that sometimes out of context, I'm like, oh crap, I wish I added 2 more sentences because I know the audience took this out of context. There was, when people were making fun of me of like, I was like, imagine your family being dead. And that went super viral in TikTok. Yeah. I laugh at that because kids will roll up on me at the airport, like, imagine your family's dead. And I'm like, I realized that they didn't get the full context of what I was trying to say, which is like, if you actually did, you can imagine how grateful you'll be. But out of context and then clipped or stitched, it can seem a little silly. So it's those full thought out things that I leave on the table at times that I would look back on and be like, I wish I added 3 more sentences of context. Look, grace to oneself is probably the thing I think about the most subconsciously. I talk so much about not beating up yourself. Like, this just becomes, the relationship you have with yourself is literally the whole game. And so my question is actually the reverse. What's the alternative and why would you not show yourself grace? So it's really funny. you know, when you just gave your context, I'm like, makes sense, right? You're hanging out with all these 23-year-olds, even though you look 18, by the way. You really shook me with your 30. I was like, is she in high school? So look, I view this as very practical. I don't understand why you would beat yourself up. I'm not sure why one wouldn't want to give themselves grace. The rest of the world is shitting on you at all times. Why not be kind to yourself? Don't join in, right? And really, I think what works for me, and I think this is gonna be the biggest question you need to ask yourself, is how much do you value outside validation and from whom? You know, I think it's really easy to give yourself grace once you don't give a fuck what people think about you, including your parents and siblings and plus ones. It gets really easy. It gets real easy. So I think one's relationship with themselves, I think, is directly correlated to their relationship with other people's opinions. I admire my mother more than life. I think she's the single best human being on earth, and I give her an unbelievable amount of credit for everything that I am. I do not live my life based on her opinions or for her validation. And I think this is what you need to be thinking about. I'll give you a good one, team. When I tell you, if you're like selected to get a full-time offer versus not, I'm gonna say this very crystal clear to you. It is pure serendipity of a couple people's opinions. It is not a reflection that you're good or bad. If the God of good and bad came down after this process is done, I am sure that she would say to us, you were right about this person, but you were wrong about, like, it's just, that's how life works. You know what I mean? It's just serendipity. Yeah. It's just serendipity. I think too many people have been trained by school and life to think there's a right way to do shit. There is no right way. There's life. Serendipity. Some people will be like, yo, this is the fucking best. And they get a full-time gig here and they have a massive career. But guess what? You know what they don't know? Is that if they actually didn't get a job here, went to a different job, that they were gonna meet the love of their life in that job, and they would have married a much better person for them there than if they would have stayed here. How about that shit? Life.
Yeah, that's so good. I did want to also add another question, just to follow up with Jacob and his two questions.
Between you and Jacob, I'm going to be out of here, and only two people can fucking ask questions. But go ahead. I'm joking. Go ahead.
Just one quick thing. I know you were born in Belarus, so I know your parents are also not American,
yes.
And my parents are also not American. So I was wondering, from an immigrant's perspective,
yes.
What you can speak to, especially when it comes to business and kind of, like I was talking about, having that pressure on yourself.
Yeah, I think, look, there's a lot of immigrants on this call. I can tell visually, I'm making assumptions, but what immigrant kids know is like, we have it different than American kids. And not that it's better or worse, and there's plenty of immigrants that are very American in their style, and there's very many Americans that are immigrants. This is a general statement. It is different. We live for our parents more outside the US than people in the US do generally, and so, but at the same token, I had a mother, again, I'm an immigrant, that didn't do to me what most immigrant families did. She didn't say that school was the only way out. She didn't think that how I acted was a reflection on her. She had her own self-esteem. So I got very fortunate. But what I would say to all the immigrants here is, you're gonna have to find that place that I just delivered earlier. You could admire and love your parents the most for what they've done for you and to set you up, but you cannot live for them. And the second you stop living for them and you live for your happiness, you actually deliver to your parents what they actually wanted all along, was for you to be happy. They just think you being happy oftentimes is good grades, good schools, money, the right husband, wife. But when it's all said and done, they just want you to be happy, and the only way for you to be happy is to not listen to them.
So how would you suggest, as, again, young professionals here at Vayner or not at Vayner, how are we going to build those connections and relationships with people?
By talking about shit that you like.
Cool, okay.
So let me break that down for you. There's a reason we have Slack and we have tons of channels with different stuff. To your point, it might be difficult for you have that combo, but you might be able to go into some of our general chats and just talk about the game last night or the restaurant you went to. People network through interests, not just through work realities, right? So I mean, look, there's also something called like breaking through with things that aren't comfortable. So let's think that through, right? You know, to Sarah's point, as you can see, she talks about she's been working for 25 years and that's hard for her too. Let me tell you something that's hard for me, Jacob. Working out and eating well.
Yeah, that is, as someone who goes to the gym every day, it's very hard, especially the eating part.
Yeah, so for me, I could, you know, you're a young man, but I can tell you at 38, I had never put a muscle in my body and never ate properly in my life. And so this morning when I worked out and woke up at 6:45, even though I worked until midnight last night, that wasn't easy, but I did it. And so, you know, when someone says, hey, I struggle with networking. Well, if you value networking and you understand networking is valuable, I'm aware you may be introverted. I'm aware that it might come easier for Fernando C than you, or it may not. People are different, but just because people are different doesn't mean certain things aren't valuable, and it doesn't mean that people aren't capable to do things that don't feel comfortable or come easy to them. I don't work out and eat better now for the last 10 years for kicks and giggles or because I like it. I fucking hate it. 10 years later, I hate it, but I do it. And so there's also a little bit of that element of real life, which is it may not come easy to you, but if you think it's important, you may have to learn how to get uncomfortable. And I will tell you right now, one of the biggest issues in the world, and not for Gen Z, for boomers, for anybody who's 100 and for anyone who's one of the great issues in society right now is people aren't breaking through and getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. We got real soft out here. So also another way to think about what I just said. But everything works. Life is life. Like, it's gonna be what it's gonna be. You know what I mean? But I think finding a way to make networking easy for you and everyone here, I always think that's around common interests and tactics. I tell everybody, now we're a little bit in a virtual world, but I always told people, and anyone for these next 4 weeks that are in any of these offices, live in the cafeteria and just say hi. This is a nice place. Most people don't network well because they're scared of rejection, right? They're scared of being blown off, that they're insecure. But this is a nice place. Like, people are nice here. So saying hi is like a fruitful concept. So I think one of the most terrible things about fear is that it's the greatest virus of our time. It is humans' greatest virus. That when people take on fear, they immediately try to deploy it on someone else to feel better. And so one of the things I'm most proud of is one of my greatest strengths, but also when it goes too far, one of my great vulnerabilities is I take on my fear and I don't express it out. What I tend to do, it's very rare for me to get to the stage that I'm gonna tell you, but occasionally when I'm at the highest point of fear or concern that I can get to, I tend to just go home and just like sit within myself and almost like, if I was like a superhero, I would like go into like a ball and it's almost like, you know how like snakes shed their skin? I shed my fear by deploying gratitude to myself in almost like a meditation state. And I've only done that 2 or 3 times. Every other time I'm just doing it naturally as I'm moving. As the fear or anxiety comes in, I'm in parallel pounding myself to shed it. And usually that works for me, it never tips over. So that's how I deal with it. I don't think most people are like me. I think most people deal with fear by talking to their safest person, their mom, their husband, their best friend. I think that's nice, but what I'm very happy about is that we finally destigmatized therapy. I think the right way to deal with fear is to talk to somebody who isn't your friend or family to get it out, because when you get fear out of your mouth, you feel better. And that's what I think people should do. The reason I am in such a, I would call it fairly anxious-free, especially when you consider what I'm up to, very happy state, is because I fixed the well, not the sink. I'm in religion, not tactics. Here's what I mean by that. It is more fun to me to run a business and start a business than it is to go golfing or water sports at a lake or tennis or the movies. It's why so many people that work with me are my friends. My actual happiest place is in business creation and operations.
So you've really found your joy.
Yeah, this is why I was so unhappy in my youth, at least from my school day to day. I was so quickly, call it third grade, fourth grade latest, in this weird kind of like wisdom. You know, I spent a lot of time with grandparents and old people, not my grandparents, because unfortunately they died in the old country in Russia, but would always be attracted to old people, would sit with them on the bus and talk to them at the park. And I don't know if I'm an old soul or I extracted a lot of wisdom, but by fourth grade, I'm like, oh, this is not for me. That's okay. That's not like I'm a spoiled brat and I don't want to do school. It's, oh, this is really not for me. I really love this thing, business, selling baseball cards, lemonade stands. Like in the summer, it was more fun to me while my friends were like, hey, let's go do slip and slide or play baseball. I was like, yes, and I like those things. But 1 out of every 2 days in the summer, I was like, let's go wash cars. Let's do a lemonade stand. Let's start a flea market. It was just very natural for me to want to do business. And so this is why I'm always interested in doing longer form content, because I want people to hear this. I don't burn out because I'm not about the money. I'm not buying homes that I can't afford and I need them. People burn out when they're anxious or stuck. I don't need the money to buy something to impress people. I don't need the money to pay my bills. Why? Because I live far more humbly than my earnings. And I did that, by the way, Justin, not today when I make a lot more money. When I was in my early 20s building my dad's liquor store for him, I was making $40,000, $50,000 a year. But I lived in a fucking $1,400 apartment and then basically did nothing else. Like literally had no other expense. When you don't go out, when you don't buy stuff, when you don't need $800 sneakers, when you don't need to go to Coachella. So, and by the way, there's nothing wrong with all that stuff. And I want everybody to enjoy their lives, but I was so self-aware that, and so the answer to your question is, I'm doing what I love every day. Truly, not some fucking, bullshit like love what you do. You'll like, love what you do, you never work a day of your life. There is no bigger poster child for that than me. I genuinely like what I do every day more than every alternative besides the thought of like spending time with my family who's not in my business. Like, I love that that's why I have a business with my dad and my brother, right? And why I even have thoughts of like, can I do something with my sister? It forces me to spend more time with them because this is my playground that I want to be in. I love going out to dinner with them after work. I love the weekends. I love vacation. I love all that. I love family time, but I don't think people burn out because they don't have enough family time. I think they burn out because they have this very poor relationship with the money they're trying to extract out of their career or business and how they spend their money in their life and what they spend their money on. When I say go hard, I always add in, if you love it so much, it doesn't feel like you're going hard. People separate my words. I can't go, Amy, I can't go hard at anything. I was the worst student of all time. Amy, do you know that I went through 4 years of high school without doing a single piece of homework or studying? I literally went my sophomore, junior, senior year without opening a book. Zach, I did not open a book. I would bring it home. I'd have fun with my mom covering the book with the, like the paper bag and like drawing on it. I can't go hard at handiwork around my apartment. I hate it. I can't go hard on that. You can only go hard if you love it. Otherwise, you will crash and burn.
Yes, so that's exactly what I did. I crashed and burned. And now my problem is I can't seem to bounce back from that. I also have a lot of mental health issues. I take medications and stuff for my own. Everybody's got their own stuff,
Yeah, I do.
hoping that maybe if I get the right meds, that can fix me up a little bit. But I honestly just think
No. Did you listen to the prior thing, the word yet?
No.
Did you listen to the last Q&A where I was like, you haven't, to the barbershop car wash guy, or no?
I like
No,
personally.
you were getting set up. Got it. So, Aim, you just haven't gotten it right yet. And I don't even think, listen, I have no interest in speaking to people's medical conditions. I don't know those things, but I can tell you right now, even your spirit is so bright on this call. You're a winner. You just literally haven't, what you're doing is so classic. You had the supervisor thing. So there was title, there was guaranteed money coming in. You chose happiness. I applaud you for that. Can we clap it up for her? Amy, you chose happiness. And now you're trying to reset, and maybe you don't have a couple of things you had before, a title, the steady income yet, but yet. It's a foregone conclusion. Once you had it, you'll always have it. You were clearly capable.
So I'm trying to do when I told you I did the podcast back then with some friends, I was pretty good at that. And I got a lot of compliments that I did good research, that I held a good interview, stuff like that. I really like getting to know people. I like to have a story. I'm a very empathetic person as well. So I feel like I could potentially do some interviews and relate to people on different levels than they've done in other interviews.
Okay.
So I get the ball rolling with that.
Okay. You know that's hard as shit though. Having a successful podcast is hard. You need to do that for your joy, and then maybe over time it becomes something. But you need to take these incredible people skills and deploy them against a job as well.
The job, like, I don't know what job is good enough for that. Like I'd be great working at a movie theater. I'm great with that.
So go work at a movie theater.
It doesn't pay enough.
What's enough?
Pricey down here.
Now listen, I get it. I think the price, like, it all becomes a game of like, what are you trying to achieve? I mean, the question becomes very simply like, can you live within the means of something that makes you happy? $60,000 a year is enough if you live within a $60,000 a year lifestyle. It's not if you live within a $180,000 a year lifestyle, right? So you have to also know, like, what do you want money for?
Yeah, well, I would eventually like to just get it to a point where I can do something that I enjoy for work, so I can love what I'm doing every day, like you kind of talk about. So I would like to get.
So, go ahead.
If I could get to like if I could just keep this day job that I'm doing for the next couple of years, I can get through that if I have something joyous on the out.
Got it. You believe, well, but that didn't work for you last time. You had that before. You had a job as a supervisor that you didn't like, but you had this podcast that was joyous, but it didn't work.
Yeah.
Why not just make your job joyous?
That's the hard part.
If you decide it's hard, why don't you just spend all your time applying to things that you theoretically think could work for you? Like, the reality is, you would like anything if the environment at the job was good. You're a people person.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people at Vayner right now that love their job, but they don't love advertising the way I do. They just love the people around them.
Okay.
I think you're looking for a good work environment potentially.
That makes me think I need to go back to the office, because right now I'm working from home.
By the way, Amy,
Yeah.
most people need to go back to the office because of just the human part of it. If you're a people person, it's really nice to be back in the office.
That's true.
Not everybody's a people person, but a lot of people are.
I just feel like it takes away, like, that 2-hour commute. It's one hour there, 1 hour back. That's 2 hours of my day. I could be doing something more productive.
But you're sitting at home and being miserable.
Yeah.
So the fuck are we doing? You like music?
I do like music.
Well, fucking listen to music for an hour each way. It's a fucking joy.
That's pretty good advice.
Amy, people make up things in theory that they think are smart when they're not smart at all. You're putting, you like that? Oh, you meant the boom. Got it. I wasn't sure which one.
There's part of that.
It was a little bit of both. You are into doing two things at once today. Amy, people love to create a theory of like, oh, commuting 1 hour each way is a bad idea because their friend said it. That's on crack. Or like they hear it in society, or like they worry about the gas cost. I understand how people's brains work, but like commuting an hour each way might not be bad for you, especially if you decide the commute's awesome. I miss commuting to Wine Library, Amy. I called my mom every day. Best thing I could be doing with my time. I fucking listened to sports radio and would like yell at fucking Mike and the Mad Dog and be like, you fuckers are wrong, the Knicks are. I put in Bone Thugs and fucking Harmony and listened to it and banged the first of the month. I enjoyed it. Did I love being in traffic between New York and New Jersey and the fucking GW? No, but because I was good, I wasn't mad. If you're fucking mad, you're gonna be pissed about everything. You're unhappy right now. Don't tell me about the theory of annoyance when you're unhappy. And guess what? You're allowed to change your mind. Go do it. And if like in 6 months, you're driving for 40 minutes on a 1 hour commute and it's like a huge accident, you're just sitting there and you're like, this fucking blows. Then you can be like, you know what? Fuck Garyvee, he's wrong, I'm quitting. And then you can change your mind again.
All right, so don't wait and do this miserable job and then wait till the podcast works out and then I can be happy. I should just try to find something that can make me happy now.
100,000%, because that's not gonna work.
Okay.
But when did you realize that you had something that most people don't, like the work ethic or like the drive?
Yeah, and I think in those videos, this is what's fun about long form podcasts. I don't view it as like I work 19 hours and you work 15. Yep. I think of it as like just the pure intent and the effort in every moment. Mm-hmm. And so people can't work harder than me because they can only be tied with me. Right before we went on, we were giving Joker some love, right? Yeah. Like there's many different people. There's plenty of people on earth that work more hours than me. There's plenty of people that work the way I work. I'm looking at some of them right now behind the cameras that are 100 when they work. Yep. As somebody who was in school and gave 2% effort and everything was everything but what was going on, in work, it's 100. Yep. I'm like unreachable for 10 hours a day. Every minute is booked, but it's not even about being booked. It's like when you lock in a big match. Yep. You can't even hear it. Yeah, you can't. You can't, and that's how I am every moment that I work, because I love it. And because I was trained to do it. Look, I'm from immigrant parents who worked every minute. My mom raised 3 kids. I never saw someone helping ever. I didn't know what a house cleaner was. I didn't know what a babysitter was. I didn't know what a cook was, a driver. I never even heard of that shit. Yeah. That was on some Robin Leach Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. Yeah, like I didn't, and we also grew up in a neighborhood where like, I mean like nobody had it. Yeah. There was no such thing. I don't even know what we're talking about. So I watched 2 people in front of me work every minute to build a family, to build a life. And then I was 14 and I'm working in my dad's store. I was working 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 hours. So I'm just built. It's like training. You know, when I think about my childhood, I'm the byproduct of tremendous parenting. You know, for the first 14 years of my life, that was my mom. My dad worked at his liquor store every hour. I barely saw him. And then from 14 to 22, I got to spend a lot of time with my dad and learn some really good, you know, old world principles that I think make me me. And so, you know, but to answer you more directly in the way I think you're asking, competitive. You know, it's fun to talk to a professional athlete about this. I believe we've really lost our way with competition and parenting. Yep. These 8th place trophies, telling a kid that's crying when he loses, this doesn't matter, it's just a game. I think modern parenting has lost our way. If I think about my childhood, the first word that comes to mind is competition. Yep. From 6 to 15, I barely remember anything other than competing. Backyard football, tennis, darts, video.
Every time we lost, I felt like shit the whole day. I wanted to redo it, go again.
Well, I believe anyone that's achieved things as a parent, as a professional, as an athlete, as a business person, I think normally, if they've achieved big, they're normally the kid that cried when they lost or struggled with it because they cared. I think indifference is a pandemic. It doesn't matter, chill, indifference is a problem. And I think when you tell a kid everybody wins, you're teaching indifference, it's not real life. And so my relationship with losing as a child was foundational. Yeah. So I think competition, then I think entrepreneurship, like it would snow in New Jersey when I was 8 and every kid went out with a sled and was fired up to make a snowman. And I grabbed a shovel from my garage and was ringing doorbells and was looking to shovel your driveway for $3. So I was very entrepreneurial, lemonade stands. It was just selling something. It was very entrepreneurial. And then just joyful. You know, I think an important thing I think a lot about is who are the people that are luckiest in their circumstance with their upbringing. And I've come to a place at 48 now where I think a child who grows up in a family that is happy and doesn't have a lot, she or he is set up for massive success. Because from the get, they're taught that there's not a correlation between money and happiness. And so I grew up that way with very humble beginnings, but my mom was sunshine, everything was good, always. Even when it was a struggle, I never, like it was just all happy, love, unconditional love, and that set me up.
Well, I have a direct quote from you. I was a kid, I had the best mum of all time, and everything was rainbows, but we were poor as fuck.
Yes.
It's like, I was reading through all your quotes and I was like, me too, like I didn't have, you know, a lot, but I just had the best childhood. Like I only knew that my parents made me so happy and I was playing tennis and they gave me all these opportunities. But then I realized looking back, I'm like, we really didn't have that much. They just made everything.
Same. I was only in my 30s where I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like they stopped buying me shit at like 11. Like it was my norm. And that makes sense to me. It also, when I found out about you, that's what allows people like you and I, and the many that are watching that are doing it in their fields, professions, lives, the courage to do shit. When I see what you do, I don't look at it as like ridiculous or flashy or this. Look, do I think that you are naturally just an entertaining human being? Yes, I do. But no, I see it as courage. You know, and I think it's fun to ask why.
Yeah, I mean, my entire childhood playing tennis, I was always asking coaches, why am I doing this? And I'm playing these shots under pressure where everyone's like, why is he doing that? He's got no discipline. He's not like thinking straight out there. And I'm only playing this because in the moment it feels right to me. And then I look at all these kids that are trying to play this way, and it's inspiring for me. Like it's like a lot of kids are watching me play and they're enjoying it and they're happy. And
they make their version of it.
Yeah.
You know, you were affected by the people that you saw on the come up.
Yeah.
Both pro and like we're affected by what we see. And so like everybody that you watched in whatever capacity you watched, that's affecting you. And you are now affecting them. And I view it, because I see the world, I think, more similar to you, I see it as courageous and curious when you're doing what you're doing. But I also think it's encouraging. I mean, especially your Wimbledon run, it was fun for me because I've been watching for a long time. And obviously you hit more of the public consciousness with that. And of course that means everyone's gonna do what they do with me and others. Hot take, people immediately loved you, immediately disliked you. But it allowed me at a lot of drinks and dinner tables and around friends and acquaintances to talk about the power of curiosity, the power of why, the courage of not being scared to break out, especially when it's silly ass shit. In a world where there's real shit going on, is a red fucking hat that serious? And I think these things matter and these conversations matter. And I don't think that they're I think most people underestimate, and I'll use tennis terms, the Agassi of it all, the McEnroe of it all, the Connors of it all. I think they underestimate the importance of those people and what they do to create new conversations. And I think that's powerful. I think good trouble is important. I think it's how we advance the world. I think good trouble means to me finding new ways to accept people under new norms. And most of all, in the arena I play in, entrepreneurship, there's no way to succeed without causing it. You know, if you're not causing good trouble, it means you're an employee.
Well, I guess like in my kind of what I do, tennis world, you kind of get taught to be, you know, follow the rules, very different to your world. So I guess.
Well, not really. This is why I fuck with you so much. What you do on the court is what I did on the stage. In 2009, when I started public speaking, all the biggest speaking bureaus in the world reached out to me and said, if you start wearing a suit instead of being so casual, and if you stop cursing, you will become one of the biggest speakers in the world. And it was really interesting. I was 34, I understood what was going on in my life, I saw the opportunity, and again, going back to the title, Good Trouble, you know, one may see me in 2009 cursing and wearing casual in business environments on stage as trouble, but I saw it as good trouble. And what I mean by that was I'm incapable of being anybody but myself. It wasn't a very complicated conversation. I'm a businessman. These are multiple individuals telling me that I will be able to do more business if I compromise on these two things. What's crazy is 99% of things for me are easy to compromise on. I don't have conviction about them. I don't care about them. Many things. But if I care, I don't know how not to. And I cared to feel comfortable. And there was no way for me to spit it unless I was comfortable.
Do you feel like, you know, when you go up on stage and you're wearing what you want to wear, you're going about things the way you want to go about them? Like, do you feel like you got punished for that in any way? Because like when I'm at Wimbledon and I'm wearing a red hat and white tradition and paying fines here.
Well, this is what's great about entrepreneurship. You get punished because there's systems in charge and you pay a fine and things happen. I get punished with the opportunities I didn't get. Do I believe that there was tons of people that are like, this guy's awesome, and put my video up and the boss looked at it and said, we're not hiring that dude. I was getting punished without seeing it. The cool thing though is, usually when something comes along, it seems like an enigma, but sometimes it's the preview. When Allen Iverson came up, people thought it might be the enigma, but he was the preview. Every NBA player was gonna look like him 15 years later. When I came up and started doing what I was doing, I seemed like the enigma. Today, most people that give keynote speeches are pretty casual. I mean, today, when people wear a business suit to a business meeting, they usually make a joke about it because now that seems out of range. So, you know, for me, of course I was being punished. I was missing out on tons of opportunities that the 2009 business world made decisions on, but I couldn't see it the way you can see it. Because I wasn't in an organization, a company, a part of a tour.
Well, I still don't say it that way. I still do whatever anyway.
Well, that goes back to just being happy. Like, I don't understand why anyone deems success anything other than finding as much happiness as often as possible. You know, and that comes in many forms. Unfortunately, I think modern society looks at success through a lens of finances.
It's much more than that.
It's much more than that. And that's how I view that. You know, for many people, it seems silly to pay that fine. You've worked very hard for a long time to be able to afford to pay that fine to make yourself happy.